Well, hello, good morning. My name is Jacob Monk, and this is the 10th of September 2016. And I'm going to read one of the biggest Danish papers called morning paper Jyllands-Posten. And this will give you an impression about what is going on in Denmark. You know, Denmark, it's a small country, it's a kind of American colony. It's called a democracy, but in fact it is run mostly by American culture and American policy and American military planning. And that is reflected in the Danish papers. So you see everything that is in here. It is exactly the same angle, exactly the same viewpoints as you'll find in the American Obama press, that is the neoconservative press in USA. Well, but it is a Danish paper, and of course it is in Danish. I can't read you in the original language, but it will give you an impression. Let's start up here. The children in Aleppo, they pay a high price. That's the front page story. You know, today Aleppo in Syria, it is run by terrorists. It's run by ISIL. And ISIL, in fact, they are protected by USA. And that's why the American press say, no, no, no to Assad, no, no, no to the Russians. No, you're not allowed to liberate Aleppo. Because Assad is the legal ruler of Syria. But ISIS, they are terrorists coming from outside, being financed from outside. So now they have a lot of pity with the small children being victims of bombs. Yeah, sure, when there is a war, small children, they are killed too. That's the way it is. They are killed by American bombs too. But Syria, they have the right to fight for their own freedom. So it's pure hypocrisy when they have so much pity with the children of Aleppo, because the children of Aleppo, they are under ISIL control. So they just have to suffer until this terrorist control has ended. That's what they need to understand in USA. But unfortunately, the neoconservative, militaristic politician, that means President Obama and Hillary Clinton, they support the Syrian terrorists, using the American taxpayers' money, billions and billions, to fight wars for bad purposes in foreign countries. Well, now we have page number 2. Danish agriculture is ready to grow hashish of high quality. They have read, the Danish journalists, that there are some places in Holland and even in USA where it's legal to grow hashish, and they want to make the same laws here in Denmark. Well, I continue to read my paper, and here we have page number 6. It's discussion about foreigners living in Denmark. You know, racism being mainly promoted by the Social Democrats and Danish Folk Party in Denmark. Actually, Danish Folk Party I would consider a pro-Nazi party, but they are supported by the so-called liberals and by the Social Democrats. And they don't want foreigners to come to Denmark. They want Denmark to be a pure, a clean, white Lutheran country. So Muslims, Hindus, Catholics and so on, they are not allowed to come to Denmark. You know, we don't have to go many years back before it was illegal to have Catholic churches in Denmark. Actually, in 1848, the law was changed. And even in the mid-1950s, it was illegal to be a school teacher if you were a Catholic in Denmark. And you also have to remember that the Danish state is supporting the Lutheran Church, and that is what is reflected on a daily basis in the American press. Sorry, in the Danish press. But American press, Danish press, Denmark is a favorite country of Americans. And the reason is not because of Danish policy, it is only because Denmark is like a little pet dog running behind US imperialism, never protesting about anything, always laying their votes for the Americans, no matter how immoral the American foreign policy is. Danish politicians and Danish papers, they are against Donald Trump. You have to understand that. They agree about that. It's one long propaganda campaign for Hillary Clinton and against Donald Trump. But here, now, the polls, they tell that Donald Trump, he has a real chance of winning the election. Personally, I hope he will win the election. But the Danish politicians, they fear that because they want to be slaves of the neocons. They want Hillary Clinton to be the female dictator of the Western world. And now on continuing, here we have Aleppo again. They are so angry that the Syrian army is liberating Aleppo that they promote this political campaign for stopping the war, for liberating Aleppo. And if the Russians stop the war, that means Aleppo will continue to be a part of the ISIL empire, not a part of Syria. That would be the same as if the Russians they invaded in California and said, now I want California to go back to be a part of Mexico. What do you think would happen if they did that? Well, let's continue. Here, of course, North Korea, it's the arch enemy of America. They see it's the evil empire, as George Bush told the world. And Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, is painted in black colors in the Danish press. Of course, that's a copycat of the American press. And I continue reading. I have to say, I haven't read this paper before. It's the first time I see the articles here, so I'm not prepared in any way. And it is the paper from this morning. I just bought it 1 hour ago in a shop outside. Here they want to have election in democracy. Well, as a matter of fact, Denmark is not a democracy. There's not mentioned one single word about democracy in our constitution. It is a monarchy. No rule in Denmark can be decided without our king or our queen has signed it. If our queen does not sign a law, it's not a law. No matter if 90% of the so-called politicians has voted for this law. So Denmark is a monarchy, not a democracy. Denmark is a religious state, could be compared to Saudi Arabia, but not based on Wahhabi Islam, based on Lutheranism. And I continue here. There's some articles about culture, about films. It's not of interest for everyone. And here you see an article about the Lutheran Church. It is a cartoon. The Danish politicians are very worried because there are a lot of people leaving the Lutheran Church in Denmark. At the moment, 82% of all Danes are members of the Lutheran Church, You know Martin Luther, the guy who wanted to kill every Jew, who said that human beings has no free will. Everything you do is evil. Well, actually, he was the model that Adolf Hitler, he developed his ideology, Nazism, on the basis of. You can read quite a few things, good things about Martin Luther in Mein Kampf. You have to read it yourself. But actually, the writings of Martin Luther, they are just as evil as Mein Kampf. And Lutheranism is the constitutional basis of Denmark. And the leaders who earn a lot of money on this religious basis, they are so worried that the Danes, they leave the Lutheran faith. And now we continue. And this is an article saying that we have to make everything digital. Denmark is one of the leading countries in digital development in Europe. Actually, you can only communicate with the Danish state if you have a computer. Today, everything is done by a computer. When you pay your tax, social welfare, unemployment benefit, and so on and so forth. Well, let's continue through the paper here. Here we have an international article. It's about Spain and about the Danish sports idol Caroline Wozniacki. Well, actually, I like Caroline Wozniacki. She's a tennis player. She's world famous, and she's very good. She has been number 2 in a lot of international tennis competitions, and she has been actually number 1 on the list of female tennis players, the quality list of tennis players years back. Now she's maybe, I don't know, maybe number 16, 17 or something like that. Well, let's take section number 2 of this paper. It is what is called the business section. And it is mostly about Denmark. But you have to understand that most businesses in Denmark, they are run by American companies. They are not owned by Denmark. They are owned by American capital investment funds. And, well, one or the other employer has a conflict with other employers. And here we have online concern Zalando. They hope to get a big part of the market for dresses, yeah. And here we have still more discussion about legalizing hashish. You know, we have Christiania in Denmark, a part of the town that was once occupied 20 years ago, and now it's nearly legal, but there is a big hashish trade and trade of narcotics on Christiania, and that has been a problem for many years. I think that we have come to a part of the paper where it's mostly local news. I won't tell them to you because it's not interesting for an international audience. But here is a whole part of the section where you can buy real estate. You know, real estate in Denmark is very, very cheap compared to the prices in Germany and USA and a lot of other countries. So if you want to move to Europe and you can live with the weather, today the weather is absolutely wonderful in Denmark, but normally it's not as good as now. If you want to come to the northern Denmark, you're always welcome in Denmark. I should say, if you want to come to the northern part of Europe, you're always welcome in Denmark. And here we have an article about traveling to Russia. You know, Russia and Denmark has never been in any kind of war. The Swedes have been in war with Russia, and the British has been, and Germany of course, but never Denmark. But Denmark is a part of the NATO alliance, and to satisfy the USA, we always have a bit of a conflict running with Russia. There's a lot of anti-Russian propaganda in the Danish papers, mostly copied from the American papers. But here are some people, they want to go to Russia, take a travel to Russia. And actually it's very, very cheap to travel to Russia. So you should do that if you've not been there before. I think we have reached the end of this paper here. I don't find anything else being very interesting. Is a cruise in the Caribbean Ocean. It will cost you 11,000 kroner. That is about, I would say, 1,500 euro. Not too expensive. And here you see a few Danish pop stars, maybe the two biggest pop stars, called Christopher and Rasmus Seebach. And they are traveling around in our country being sex idols for the young girls and the young romantic teenagers. They feel very much excited when they hear these pop singers. So this was an introduction to the Danish so-called liberal paper called Morgenavisen Jyllands-Posten. If you want to learn about the world, I would say read the American press and the Russian press. Then you have a very good impression of how the world is constituted from two angles. The Danish press, it's just a scaled down echo of the American press. You won't learn anything from reading the Danish papers, and less people read these papers because we have the internet and it's so easy to get access to news and even to the truth when you surf on the internet. Well, thank you for listening to this survey of the American press. Goodbye.